Gloria Holloway eased her black Cadillac Escalade into a parking space, outside one of Charlotte's busiest grocery stores, taking her time as she always did. At 69 years old, she no longer rushed through life. 5 days earlier, surgeons had repaired her heart, and every movement now came with a reminder to slow down. Her doctor had repeated the same advice before signing her discharge papers. Avoid stress, walk carefully, and let your body heal. Gloria intended to follow every instruction. She rested both hands on the steering wheel for a moment, before turning off the engine. The afternoon sunlight reflected across the polished hood of the SUV, a vehicle she had purchased after more than 40 years of honest work. Every payment had been made on time. Every dollar had been earned through sacrifice, long shifts and years of determination. To Gloria, the Escalade wasn't a symbol of wealth. It was proof that perseverance could outlast hardship. She reached carefully for her cane, opened the driver's door, and stepped onto the warm pavement. A gentle breeze brushed across her silver hair as she adjusted her cardigan. In one hand, she carried a small bouquet of white roses. In the other, she held a reusable shopping bag containing only a short grocery list. Fresh peaches sat at the top because tomorrow would have marked her 45th wedding anniversary with her late husband, James. He had loved peaches every summer, and even after his passing, Gloria honored the tradition. Some promises never expired. She smiled quietly as she looked toward the grocery store entrance. Life had tested her many times, but it had also taught her gratitude. She remembered raising her son alone after James passed away unexpectedly. There had been years when she cleaned office buildings overnight before starting another job the next morning. She often returned home exhausted, yet she never allowed bitterness to shape her heart. Instead, she taught her son that integrity mattered more than appearances, and that respect should be given to every person, regardless of their background or position. As Gloria walked carefully across the parking lot, several shoppers smiled politely. A young employee collecting shopping carts nodded and held the automatic door open for an elderly couple. The ordinary kindness reminded Gloria that good people still existed everywhere. Most Americans believed in fairness, compassion, and treating others with dignity. She believed that too. Not far away, however, another pair of eyes followed her every step. Karen Whitfield sat inside a gray SUV with the engine running. She watched Gloria unlock the luxury vehicle, then slowly make her way toward the entrance with her cane. Karen's expression hardened. She looked from the expensive Escalade to the elderly black woman walking away from it, and an unfair assumption formed almost instantly. Without knowing Gloria's name, without knowing her story, without knowing a single fact, Karen reached for her phone. Her fingers moved quickly as she dialed 911. Yes, she said in a calm voice. I'm at Greenfield Market. I think there's an elderly black woman trying to steal a black Cadillac Escalade. The dispatcher immediately began asking questions. Did you actually see her break into the vehicle? Karen hesitated for only a fraction of a second before answering. She has keys, but something doesn't look right. I don't think that SUV belongs to her. You should send someone before she drives away. The words sounded confident enough to trigger concern. Within seconds, the dispatcher relayed the call to nearby patrol units as a possible vehicle theft in progress. Less than 2 miles away, Officer Daniel Brooks acknowledged the radio traffic. Only 3 years into his career, Brooks wanted desperately to prove himself. Every high-priority call felt like another opportunity to demonstrate quick decision-making and confidence under pressure. Good police officers understand that every report deserves careful investigation before conclusions are reached. Facts must always come before assumptions. But in his eagerness to respond, Brooks focused more on the reported accusation than on verifying the information behind it. He activated his emergency lights. The patrol car accelerated through afternoon traffic as the flashing red and blue lights reflected across nearby storefront windows. Gloria had no idea they were racing toward her. She was simply comparing peaches in the produce aisle, quietly planning to place fresh flowers beside her husband's grave. The following morning, completely unaware that a stranger's false report was about to transform an ordinary afternoon into the most unforgettable day of her life. Gloria stood in the produce aisle for several quiet minutes, carefully selecting peaches one by one, just as James had always done. She smiled at the memory of him, insisting that the sweetest fruit was never the brightest one,
but the one that simply felt right in your hand.
The thought warmed her heart. She placed 4 peaches into a paper bag, picked up a loaf of whole grain bread, and thanked the cashier with the same gentle kindness she showed everyone she met. "Take care of yourself, ma'am." the young cashier said as she handed over the receipt. I intend to, Gloria replied with a warm smile. You have a wonderful afternoon. She slowly made her way toward the automatic doors, leaning lightly on her cane. Every step reminded her that recovery was still in progress. The fresh stitches beneath her blouse pulled slightly whenever she walked too quickly, but she welcomed the discomfort. It reminded her she had survived. Outside, the afternoon heat wrapped around the parking lot. Families loaded groceries into their vehicles while children laughed. Nearby shopping carts rattled across the pavement. It looked like any ordinary afternoon in America. Then the sharp scream of approaching sirens shattered the calm. Several shoppers turned instinctively. A Charlotte County patrol vehicle entered the parking lot at high speed before stopping diagonally behind Gloria's Cadillac Escalade. The tires screeched loudly enough to silence nearby conversations. Officer Daniel Brooks stepped out almost immediately. His hand rested near his duty belt. As he walked with determined strides toward Gloria, "Step away from the vehicle," he shouted. Every head in the parking lot turned. Gloria blinked in surprise. She looked behind herself, wondering if someone else was being addressed. "Ma'am," Brooks barked again. "Hands where I can see them." Gloria raised both hands slowly, her grocery bag hanging gently from one wrist. "Officer," she said calmly. "Is something wrong, you tell me?" His voice carried across the parking lot, drawing more attention with every passing second. Gloria remained respectful. "I don't understand. Step away from the SUV." She obeyed without hesitation. Years of life had taught her that remaining calm often prevented misunderstandings from growing worse. She carefully set her grocery bag on the pavement before taking 2 slow steps backward. "This is my vehicle," she explained softly. "If there's been some mistake, I can show you my registration." Brooks barely looked at her. Instead, his eyes moved from the luxury SUV to Gloria's faded cardigan, comfortable walking shoes and metal cane. His expression hardened. "When did you get this vehicle?" "I've owned it for 3 years." "Really?" "Yes, sir." "You expect me to believe that?" Several shoppers exchanged uneasy glances. A father standing beside his teenage daughter quietly whispered, "Something doesn't seem right." His daughter had already begun recording on her phone. More phones slowly appeared. Within moments, nearly everyone nearby was watching. Gloria noticed the cameras, but kept her attention on the officer. "My driver's license is inside." "My purse." "Don't touch the purse." "I only want to show you the registration." I said, "Don't move." She immediately stopped, I understand. Her voice never rose. She had lived through decades of challenges that taught patience over anger. She knew respect often spoke louder than shouting. Brooks stepped closer. "Who gave you the keys?" Gloria frowned. "They're my keys." "You sure about that? I've carried them every day." He circled slowly around the Escalade. The polished black paint reflected the afternoon sunlight. Everything about the SUV appeared perfectly maintained. Nothing suggested theft. Nothing suggested forced entry. Nothing suggested criminal activity. A simple computer check of the license plate could have answered every question. In seconds, good policing depends on facts, careful observation, and fairness. Most officers across America understand that rushing to conclusions can damage lives and weaken the public trust. Taking a moment to verify information protects both officers and the communities they serve. But Officer Brooks never requested the registration. He never ran the license plate. He never asked dispatch to verify ownership. Instead, he relied entirely on the anonymous accusation. Gloria slowly shifted her weight as discomfort spread across her chest. "My hospital discharge papers are inside my purse. She said I had heart surgery 5 days ago." Brooks showed little reaction. "I've heard every excuse. It isn't an excuse. It's always something." A gentle breeze tipped Gloria's cane slightly off balance. She reached instinctively to steady herself. "Don't move!" The sudden shout startled her. Her cane slipped from her hand and struck the pavement,
before rolling several feet beneath a nearby vehicle.
Without it, Gloria swayed. She caught herself against the side of her own SUV. A quiet gasp escaped several people standing nearby. One young grocery employee stepped forward. "Officer," he called respectfully. She dropped her cane. Brooks immediately pointed toward him. "Stay back, I'm just trying to hand it to her." I said, "Stay back." The young employee froze. He lowered his hands but remained where he was. Like many others, he continued recording. Gloria struggled to remain standing. "I simply need my cane. You'll be fine." "No, sir." Her breathing became noticeably slower. "My balance isn't very good after surgery." Brooks stepped directly in front of her. "Place your hands behind your back." Shock crossed Gloria's face. "What you heard me, officer. I haven't done anything hands behind your back." Several voices from the growing crowd began speaking at once. "Check her ID, just run the plate." "She's cooperating," an older man quietly shook his head. "This isn't how this should be handled." Brooks ignored every comment. Gloria looked around the parking lot. She saw concern on strangers' faces. She saw phones recording. She saw people wanting the situation to slow down. Then she looked directly into the officer's eyes, took one careful breath, and slowly began moving her trembling hands behind her back. Exactly as instructed, Officer Daniel Brooks tightened the steel handcuffs around Gloria Holloway's wrists, while the parking lot fell into an uneasy silence. The sharp click echoed louder than anyone expected. Gloria flinched as pain shot through her shoulders and into the fresh incision beneath her blouse. She closed her eyes for a brief moment, not because she was guilty, but because she was trying to steady her breathing. "I just had heart surgery," she whispered. "Please, the cuffs are too tight." Brooks barely acknowledged her words. "You should have thought about that before stealing someone's vehicle." "It is my vehicle." Her answer was calm, almost gentle. There was no anger in her voice, only truth. Several people standing nearby exchanged uncomfortable looks. One woman quietly wiped tears from her eyes, while another man lowered his phone for a moment, clearly struggling with what he was witnessing. A teenage college student stepped forward. "Officer," he said respectfully, "why don't you just check the registration? It'll take less than a minute." Brooks turned toward him. "This is an active police investigation." "Stay back," the young man nodded, unwilling to interfere, but he continued recording. Every second that passed was now being captured from multiple angles. Gloria's purse rested on the pavement where it had fallen earlier. The zipper had opened during the struggle, leaving several items scattered across the asphalt. Her prescription bottle, reading glasses, hospital wristband, and folded discharge papers lay plainly in view. One gust of wind unfolded a laminated registration card. It stopped only a few feet from Officer Brooks. The card displayed Gloria Holloway's full name. The license plate number matched the Cadillac perfectly. A woman near the front of the crowd noticed it immediately. "It's right there," she called out, "officer." "Her registration is literally right there." Others began pointing. "Check the paperwork." "She's telling the truth. You don't have to guess anymore." For a brief second, Brooks looked down at the card. He could have picked it up. He could have verified the information. He could have corrected the situation before it became something far worse. Instead, he looked away. "We'll sort everything out?" Downtown Gloria slowly shook her head. "There is nothing to sort out." The afternoon heat grew heavier. Her breathing became shorter. Without her, cane standing had become almost impossible. "I need to sit down," she said quietly. "My chest hurts." Officer Brooks gestured toward the patrol vehicle. "You can sit in the back." He guided her toward the cruiser. Gloria tried to keep her balance, but every careful step became harder than the last. Her knees weakened. She stumbled. Several people instinctively reached forward. Before anyone could catch her, she dropped to one knee on the hot pavement. The impact sent pain racing through her body. A gasp spread across the parking lot. The grocery employee who had tried to help earlier could no longer remain silent. "Someone call Ms." Another shopper immediately pulled out a phone. "They already need an ambulance." For the first time, Officer Lisa Bennett, who had arrived moments earlier as backup, stepped closer. She looked at Gloria, then at the hospital paperwork, then at the registration card still lying on the pavement. Concern spread across her face. "Daniel," her voice was calm but firm, "I really think we should verify ownership before taking her in." Brooks remained convinced he was right. "We'll verify everything later." Lisa hesitated. Every officer understands that authority carries enormous responsibility. Communities rely on law enforcement not only to enforce the law, but also to protect life, preserve dignity, and seek the truth before reaching conclusions. Trust grows strongest when professionalism, fairness, and compassion guide every decision. Gloria slowly lifted her eyes toward Officer Bennett. "I only need one phone call." Lisa looked at Brooks, he answered before she could speak. "She can make calls after booking." Gloria gave a small, knowing smile. "You may want to answer yours first." The words sounded strangely confident, almost peaceful before anyone could respond. Brooks's shoulder radio crackled loudly. "Attention all units." The dispatcher sounded unusually urgent. "County Police Chief Michael Holloway is responding to your location. Immediately maintain the scene until his arrival." Brooks frowned. "The chief here?" The crowd murmured. People looked at one another confused. Less than 2 minutes later, the unmistakable sound of multiple county police vehicles filled the parking lot. Black SUVs rolled in one after another. Every conversation stopped. The lead vehicle came to a halt, and before it had fully stopped, County Police Chief Michael Holloway stepped out. His expression was focused, professional, determined. He scanned the crowd once. Then his eyes landed on the elderly woman, sitting handcuffed beside the patrol car. Everything changed. The confidence disappeared from his face. He rushed forward without saying a single word to anyone else. Officer Brooks instinctively stood at attention. "Chief, we have a—" Michael walked straight past him. He knelt beside Gloria. His hands trembled as he gently held her shoulders. "Mom." The single word froze the entire parking lot. Every phone remained pointed at the scene. No one spoke. No one moved. The chief carefully brushed a strand of silver hair away from Gloria's face. "Mom, who did this to you?" Gloria looked at him with the same gentle smile she had carried throughout the entire ordeal. "I'm all right, sweetheart." "No," he answered softly. "You shouldn't have had to go through any of this." The silence that followed was louder than any siren. In one heartbreaking moment, assumptions gave way to truth, and everyone watching was reminded that dignity, fairness, and justice should never depend on a person's age, appearance, or the vehicle they drive. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments. What part affected you the most? What would you have done if you had witnessed this moment? Your voice matters, and your perspective could inspire someone else to stand up for what is right. And let me know what kind of powerful, emotional story you'd like to see next. Your comments help shape future stories, and I read every one of them.